Hey guys, you're checking out the Pure Delusion YouTube channel, and today we're going to be talking about why did Trumpcare fail? Or you could call it Ryancare. So, of course, I'm referring to the American Health Care Act, the Obamacare replacement bill. So, let's just start off. Why did this piece of legislation fail? Well, first of all, it was a poor piece of legislation. Kicked millions of people off of their insurance. I think by 2026, 24 million Americans would have been kicked off of their insurance, which is pretty devastating. So, according to polling, it only had 17% approval rating from Americans, and there was major tax cuts for wealthy, which really made it extremely unpopular. And the subsidies were pretty harsh on older Americans, and they were a lot less for everybody in general. So that's part one, but I think the GOP was pretty much in a lose-lose situation. So if they repeal Obamacare, then they're going to be held accountable for whatever type of legislation and whatever health care America has. So they'll own that, just like how the Democrats and Barack Obama own Obamacare. So I think that turned off a lot of the moderate Republicans. And the other issue is, so now that Obamacare is still the law of the land, they're going to be in charge of maintaining it, improving it, developing it. So either way, they're pretty much in a lose-lose because they criticized Obamacare for 8 years. And the reason I think it's a lose-lose situation is because it seemed like they really didn't have much to replace it with after 7 to 8 years of complaining and saying they're going to repeal it. So who's to blame? Well, the main person to blame, obviously, is Paul Ryan, the guy who crafted the bill. Paul Ryan has a reputation for being a policy wonk, if you will, and it just didn't seem that way. It seemed like he proved that notion wrong with this bill. It was a horrible bill, and it was destined to fail, in my opinion. The Affordable Care Act took 5 months to craft, debate, so it took 5 months before they even voted on it. This bill, the life of this bill, the American Health Care Act, was 18 days. So Paul Ryan really shit the bed as far as this health care bill is concerned. He forced it down everybody's throat in the House, and he just didn't give people enough time to create it, understand it, digest it. As far as who else is to blame, Donald Trump, obviously, but he's a little bit less to blame, in my opinion. Clearly, he didn't do a great job negotiating this bill. When you sell yourself as a master negotiator, you write books called Art of the Deal, and then you fall through, you're going to look like an idiot. The problem is, I don't think Donald Trump really read this bill, because Donald Trump says he wants health care for everybody. Well, I guess he didn't understand that this bill is going to kick 26 million off of their insurance. And another thing about deal making, giving people ultimatums never works. If you're a true deal maker, you would know that. Trump said that they're going to vote on this bill, and if the conservatives in the House of Representatives don't pass it, then they're just going to be stuck with Obamacare. So I think that was a terrible negotiating strategy. So what are the consequences of this epic failure of this health care bill? Trump and Ryan look extremely incompetent. The entire GOP looks as if they may not be truly ready to govern. Their whole party looks extremely fractured. I think there's a huge divide between the moderate Republicans on one side of the spectrum and the Freedom Caucus, the extremely conservative members, on the far right. And we really didn't get to see these problems surface until they actually had to start governing. We didn't really understand these fractions existed within the party because we've been focusing on the Democrats for 8 years. It really makes me question, can this Republican Party pass major pieces of legislation? I think they'll be able to pass little small things here and there and support, the Supreme Court nominee, get him through. But they just look like they're not ready to govern. They spent 8 years criticizing Obamacare, and they literally had nothing prepared to replace it. So in the end, to wrap this up, I guess they can at least try to tell the people that elected Donald Trump they tried. They can tell their constituents, hey, we tried. But in the end, I'll be curious to see if they actually try to develop Obamacare and make it better, or will they just let it die? Because the problem is premiums are just going to keep rising unless something is fixed regarding Obamacare. What I suspect will happen is they're going to basically try to sabotage Obamacare and then force and blame the Democrats to negotiate with them. They're going to force the Democrats to try and negotiate with them to develop a new health care system instead of actually just fixing Obamacare. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for checking out Pure Delusion Politics. Feel free to like, subscribe, check out some of our other videos. Thanks for listening.